Good evening, Your Excellency. After this discussion we had here, I would like to ask you, as a former representative of Hungary at the United Nations Security Council, what do you think? What is the most important for a delegate to become a good negotiator?
Well, there are a number of human considerations that are essential especially for someone who goes to work in an international organization, a multilateral organization. The United Nations is the genuine universal organization, and if you land in this world, you'll find yourself surrounded by people from the four corners of the world. In order to be successful, you have clearly to be understandable. You have to recognize that the world is a very multifaceted planet, that we have countries, regions with their specific traditions, cultural attitudes, developments. And if you want to be successful, you have to work with those guys, because this is what multilateral diplomacy is all about. So you have to engage with them and with the right flexibility, with the right, as I said, understanding of what they are saying, knowing that they come from a different cultural world, but the task is to build bridges between these worlds and to come to a common understanding and a common decision on the crucial problems that we are facing at present. So the characteristics that I would like to say are indispensable for a multilateral diplomat is, first of all, knowing more or less the geography and the history of the world. To be able to place a colleague that is coming in his way or in her way, right in the planet, where he or she comes from. To be, as I say, flexible in finding solutions when it comes to drafting a resolution or a recommendation. To also behave not like a robot, but behave like a human being who is ready to share his perceptions with his colleagues or her colleagues, because that also helps very much the chemistry that is being created among people. So all these things, and obviously the linguistic knowledge is fundamental, because here we are in a world where all the languages practically are spoken, but it is certainly an advantage if you know a couple of languages, global languages. English clearly is indispensable. I should also like to point out that when you go to New York and visit this 38th floor huge building that is known all over the world, you will see that inside the building every inscription is in two languages, English and French. So that English and French are the most essential ones, but besides that, clearly we have the other languages that are also official languages. You have to select the right language. For instance, if I stumble into a Canadian who happens to be from Quebec, I will certainly speak French with him or with her. Or if I meet an ambassador from Turkmenistan, I will use my Russian. That creates, as I said, a chemistry where the flow of information, the exchange of information goes much easier than otherwise. So all these, aspects of a life, of an everyday life of a diplomat are essential to be a really successful diplomat.
Thank you very much for that. I would like to ask another question. In your opinion, what are the three most burning issues that the international community faces today?
Well, I would certainly like to put in the first place the question of climate change, which is a crucial problem We have been wrestling with this for quite some time now, and I recognize the difficulty of getting an agreement on that. But as I usually say, here we are facing a watershed in the history of mankind. It's no more a question of whether someone belongs to this or that political affiliation, whether this or that lives in another continent. It really is, what is at stake here is the survival of a human species. So we have to focus very much on this issue, and I know that lots of negotiations are taking place, including the one that we're expecting at the end of this year in Paris, where a legal treaty is supposed to be signed by the participants. I cannot emphasize enough that this might be, as the former Vice President Al Gore from the United States was saying, is an inconvenient truth. But you cannot get away from this truth, because if you close your eyes, in a couple of decades, you will wind up in a world which is unmanageable. So I would like to put this climate change issue in the first place. Second, clearly the inequalities in the world between the various continents, poverty, the scholarization of children, the situation of mothers in those areas, Africa and certain parts of Asia, etc. These are, if you will, social and also economic issues that we have to deal with. This is definitely an indispensable task before us. And then I would certainly, moving into the security political field, I'd like to say that our task continues unabated as far as the violations of international law are concerned, as far as aggressive actions are concerned, as far as territorial annexations are happening, as far as the blind religious fanaticism is spreading in certain parts of the world. These are those issues that also have a direct link to what I call the security and the stability of this world. So, since I mentioned three major problems, I would like to say that the international community faces a very difficult task today to see how it can tackle these problems, keeping the world united, because if the world is not united and it's split, then it actually is a death sentence for, as I said earlier, for the survival of mankind.
Thank you very much. A final question. If you had to describe our world in one word, what would be that word?
Unpredictable.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you very much.